Hi everyone, so today we'll be discussing the issue of economic abuse, the hidden side of intimate partner violence. Starting with an overview, the presentation will begin with outlining my research motivation and background. Moving along, I'll present a thesis along with supporting evidence, and to end, we'll discuss current interventions, the issues with them, and present some new policy options. So first of all, according to CDC's most updated definition in 2015, intimate partner violence is defined as abuse or aggression occurring within a romantic relationship. The definition explicitly includes physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological aggression, which is quite a narrow scope considering that in 1995, a researcher identified that there were four forms of distinct non-physical violence, one of them being economic abuse. And in some cases, non-physical violence can be even more severe than physical violence. This was affirmed by a research study done on 234 women in abusive relationships. 72% attested that the psychological abuse they endured had a more severe impact than the physical violence. Therefore, my research is motivated by the severe implications of non-physical abuse, specifically economic abuse, on victims of intimate partner violence. Economic abuse is unique in two dimensions. First, it doesn't require proximity to perpetrate, and that means that it can continue for long after a relationship has ended. The three forms of economic abuse formally identified in the literature include sabotage, control, and exploitation of financial resources. I'll just browse through the literature review really quick, but the first scale of economic abuse was developed in 2008, and this is the first formal measure and assessment tool developed for economic abuse. So even though this is a pretty novel research topic, as the first formal definition and scale were only developed a little bit more than a decade ago, there's a considerable amount of research that affirms women who experience economic abuse are at much higher risk for experiencing physical abuse due to the financial insecurity and dependency that it breeds. Therefore, it's really important to study this topic and its relation to perpetrating other forms of violence. Ultimately, I'll argue that the study of intimate partner violence needs to expand its scope. Considering how economic abuse is a primary factor of why women struggle to leave and recover from abusive relationships, there needs to be more research, education, and policy action dedicated to this subject. Here, we can see some testimonies from a research study illustrating real-life examples of women suffering from economic abuse. So in the first category of sabotage, we see that one woman's husband had falsely claimed that their children lived with him, which made her become falsely accused of defrauding the system and put her in thousands of dollars of debt. Next up, we have an example of control in which a woman's husband refused to let her declare her income, and so she had to accumulate a good amount of debt. And lastly, we have a case of exploitation, where one woman's husband, after they separated, used her car and transferred the ownership over to himself. So moving on, we see some existing interventions. In terms of research and education, there's only been one revision of the scale of economic abuse, which was done in 2015, in order to provide a quicker form of assessment. As for programs, most are focused on providing women financial literacy, and initial studies on two programs, the Redevelopment Opportunities for Women's Education Action Program and the Allstate Foundation Financial Management Curriculum Program, indicate that they were successful in their goals. As for policies, there are a range that can be used to help address this issue. Women suffering from economic abuse are assisted by supportive workplace policies like paid sick leave, affordable healthcare and childcare like the Affordable Care Act, and social safety net programs like food assistance and Social Security disability insurance. Furthermore, the UK is also leading in the sector by revising their criminal definitions to include non-physical forms of abuse as formal crimes. However, there are a lot of existing issues with these interventions. One of the biggest ones is the lack of access to financial support post-crisis. Many domestic violence services only provide emergency housing and financial assistance, and only a select portion of them offer programs such as financial literacy. It's also unclear which sector is responsible for responding to economic abuse. Is it the financial sector, workplaces, community organizations, or government welfare agencies? Furthermore, it's also difficult to identify and implement justice remedies as there's limited legal structures around economic abuse. Moving forward, these are some of my initial ideas for policy recommendations. First of all, we need to increase education and training programs in order to help organizations better tailor their services to tackle economic abuse in the instances of intimate partner violence. Second, we need to engage a full range of stakeholders, including financial institutions, workplaces, and community organizations to increase supportive regulations and policies. Lastly, government agencies need to increase the amount of social safety net resources available for women specifically trying to leave and recover from abusive relationships. We see that in the past decades, social safety net policies have been decreasing, and many are not catered specifically to battered women. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and any feedback is appreciated.